Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. Today, I have a very special guest. I have Kelsey Stuart on with me, and I'm super excited to introduce you to him as I have been getting to know him as a partner, friend, and also as a client over the last 2 quarters here. And it's been a fast friendship that is burgeoning and growing very, very well. And I'm excited for you guys to learn a little bit more about him because he is an amazing entrepreneur, amazing professional, and also an amazing dad. And so, without further ado, let me actually introduce Kelsey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Young. It's good to be here, buddy.
Hey, do you mind just jumping right in and sharing with the listeners what you do for a living and what you're currently working on right now, just so they
Okay.
understand?
Yeah. According to my girls, all I do is type and talk for a living.
That's awesome.
That's all I do is I just type and talk.
Yeah.
Um, I'm part of the founding family that started Bloomin Blinds franchise. So we're
Hmm.
a family business that got to a point where we could franchise.
Hmm.
So now I spend my time working with franchise owners, either helping them discover who we are and if it's a good fit for their future, mutually a good fit for our future. And then I also work with the franchise owners after they launch. Got my fingers in a little bit of the vendor partner relationships. The companies that we lean on and support and use, I do a lot of that communication and manage them as well. Um, and then just general franchisee support, whatever's needed, I'm in here to help and help push all of our businesses forward.
Yeah, and before we jump into the family part of it, can you walk us through what made you choose franchising? Because I am so curious about this industry and space, and you're really one of the first people that I've gotten close with that have made that decision to go from scaling a family business to a franchise model.
I bet our core rationale was probably not different than most people who got into franchising, and I'll
Hmm.
expand on that. Um, I grew up with parents that were owner operators. I've never seen my parents have a 9 to 5. They've
Mm.
always been business owners. And so I think that part was always, it just seemed like natural to me. Granted, it's not society's way. So there's a whole river of expectations that say go to school, get a good job. But at the same time, I never really fit into that box naturally. I started businesses as an early kid. I didn't do well in a classroom environment that where other people told me what to think and what to feel. And ultimately, through my 20s, I ended up joining forces with my family, and we started building Bloomin Blinds. And I knew that if I didn't, I just had it in my mind that if I didn't figure out how to grow a business bigger than what my parents did, I was going to be an owner operator. I was going to be at the literal or metaphorical cash register my entire life.
Mm.
So over the course of 10 years, I was pushing on expansion, empire. Empire was the word I always used. And and it was all driven by this idea that we needed to build something bigger where we didn't have to be responsible to be there every day.
Hmm.
And and so as we got close to making those choices, it really came down to two options. And it was a limited vision on our part, but it's all we knew. It was either additional corporate stores where we would take our family business, at this point it's mom and the three boys, and one brother goes to Houston, one brother goes to Kansas City, the other one goes to Salt Lake City, and someone stays in Dallas and runs that one. But it was in our vision, it was we have to split up the family to go grow the company. And in hindsight, it's because we had no managerial experience. We had
Mm.
always been owner operators. We didn't know what it meant or took to inspire somebody to treat that business as their own and take care of it when you're not there every day.
Hmm.
Um, and the other option in our limited mindset was franchising, where we go through a little bit of a paperwork process. We get franchise owners to come in, they hand us a pile of money, we give them a shirt, and they send us money forever. And that was the extent of our knowledge of franchising. And I didn't have the capital or the experience to do corporate stores. And the idea that you train them for a couple of weeks and they send you money forever sounded really good.
Hmm.
So, in a desire to be more than just an owner operator, we took that path. As it turns out, we had no idea what franchising really meant.
Wow.
And so we've had to learn over time what it means to be a franchise.
Yeah, that's fascinating actually because it almost sounds like you lucked into it, lucked and
Oh
lucked
yeah,
into it. Yeah.
our history is a collection of happy accidents.
Explain. Give me one more example of that.
Okay, so before the franchise, this is family business time. Um, in Plano, Texas, there's a main thoroughfare called Preston Road, and Preston had one of the most affluent zip codes in the nation in the early 2000s. This was 75093. It's like where all the new North Dallas money was. And there was this field that was undeveloped, and it had 8 ground level billboards that ran right along Preston, and then just the open field. And this is probably 2005, 2006. I had called up one of the companies on the billboard, inquired who owned the billboard, how do I get a hold of them? I got a phone number for the owner of these billboards and left a voicemail. Hey, this is Kelsey Stuart. We're a little family business. Love the idea of the billboards, man. If there's ever an opening, I'd love to know about it. Here's my number.
Mm.
Left that, somewhere in the morning, about 3 o'clock the afternoon that day. I got a call back from the owner of the billboard, and he said, "Look, I'm in a bit of a conflict with one of the tenants. If you guys can have a billboard up by tomorrow, you can have it."
Mm.
Oh, really? Oh, great. How much is it? At that time it was like $1,200 a month. Um, okay, well, I mean, let me see. And he's like, well, let me tell you right now. If you're willing to take it, your timing's right. You're going to skip 54 people on the wait list. And the one spot that I have coming up is the one right at the corner. It's not in the middle of the block where everyone's traveling 45 miles an hour. It's the one on the corner that sees 50,000 vehicles a day. And they're at stopping positions while they're waiting for that red light to go through.
Yeah.
And so, don't you bet, we ran to a sign company the very next day. We got 3 sheets of plywood and had them laminate those or put vinyl on these sheets of plywood. And later that night or the next night, we're up there with carriage bolts strapping this thing to the
Oh my
existing
God.
billboard. And the sign was in 3 pieces sitting on the ground while we're working to install it. And that thing was already starting to generate calls. People were already putting the number together from these 3 pieces and calling us while we're in the field.
Oh,
Like the field,
wow.
like this thing, and it stayed there for 5 years. And
Oh, wow.
it is absolutely one of those quintessential moments that put us on the map in Dallas and helped us get to these sequential levels of growth. Was just this cute little voicemail, catching it when somebody broke the rules and was getting kicked off a board, and then it turned out to be the best board out of all 8 of them because it was the only one at a stopping position.
Jeez
um,
Louise. That is a happy accident. That's
it,
amazing.
yeah, that's
Oh,
so
man.
yeah, that was, and that fueled us from stage to stage for 5 years. Again, it was such a good fortuitous opportunity.
And then going back to the franchising, so now that you're in it, do you have a different perspective on it now that you're more versed and you're more experienced? Because I mean, you know so much about franchising now. You've been educating me about the space and the process so much over the last few months. And so would love to just like have you share a little bit about what you've learned pre and post becoming a franchise. Obviously, you're limited understanding before, which is funny to hear
Yeah,
the story. But now, obviously, you know the mechanics of it a lot better, right? And you have a better understanding of how it works and the pros and cons of it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it now.
yeah, we've been a franchise right at 9 years now.
Yeah.
So we've gone through it, and I think it's fair to say that we really didn't start to hit our maturity curve until that February, March of 2000, what, 20? When did COVID hit? 20?
2020. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was, like, prior to that, the entire company was just myself and my 2 brothers. We had
Mm-hmm.
50 franchise owners, and there's only 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we hadn't really grown to any level of sophistication at that point. Honestly, we were still just a family business. We were owner operators. We had to show up every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, COVID hit, and all of a sudden we realized that we didn't know what was going to happen to our business. I just got done watching Walking Dead, so I was pretty sure that I knew everyone was going to turn into a zombie. I was really confident of that, to be honest. Like I literally went out and bought like water purification systems and hiking boots for everybody.
I think we all did. Yeah, we started doomsday prepping. Everyone low key did that.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And then my wife said, "You can return my shoes. I'm not running. They can just eat me." All right, interesting. Um, so in that moment, in those 2 months immediately followed, it was a huge question mark. Like, what is going to happen to the world? What's going to happen to these families that have put their faith in us in the business model?
Yeah.
And it really just sparked this sense of urgency and responsibility that we hadn't had before. We had been running in a very hot economy, um, hadn't had any major issues. No one's really had any big speed bumps. It's been a really smooth sail, and we weren't pushed into a situation where we kind of had to grow up a little bit. And COVID triggered that in a big way, and we leaned into it. Um, the if I was going to put like a picture in your mind of our mentality at that moment, like think of like some old war film, and you've got like trench warfare. So you got all these guys in these trenches, and things are blowing up, and dirt's falling over, and there's like six guys in the corner crying, and two of them are dead, and everyone's just scared shitless because there's bullets flying everywhere.
Right.
And you get some general who's been through the war a dozen other times, and he says, enough of this. And he gets up on the hill and he whips off his shirt and he says, come on, you crazy bastards, let's go get him.
Hmm.
And leading from the front with this like just insane faith, enthusiasm, just knowledge of what's coming next, everyone gets off their butt and charges the other side.
Hmm.
And we really took it as our responsibility to be that crazy general in that moment. We had to be fearless when everyone was scared, and
Hmm.
we had to dig in deeper and work harder when everyone wasn't sure what to do.
Hmm.
And we weren't entirely sure that we were right, but we knew that we owed it to the franchise owners.
Oh, a sense of responsibility. It became
And that was
real.
the yeah, and that was the real that was like this pivotal switch in our position and our mentality about being a franchisor. Was we suddenly adopted the need to truly be responsible for these guys.
I love that.
And it's gotten better and stronger, and frankly it makes it so much more enjoyable. It's a lot more weight, and it's a lot more to think about and worry about, but you feel so much more connected to it, and you feel more impactful, and you feel like you can make a bigger difference because now your ambitions are greater, and your desires to push the brand forward and help these owners. Everything got accelerated in terms of our involvement in those moments, and we've just leaned into it, and it just, I mean, we're doing 30 times more than we were doing then.
Oh, isn't that funny? Yeah, like you start investing in the franchisees, and all of a sudden you're like growing too. You know, it's awesome. It's all like
Yeah,
it's all.
like it's supposed to be.
That's right. Yep. There was a really good saying. I can't remember. I think I learned it at Starbucks, but it was this concept of like take care of your people, and your people will take care of your customers, and your customers will take care of your business, and your business will take care of you. And it's kind of
Mhm.
like this cycle that you're kind of reminding me of this saying that I heard somewhere. So it's kind of an interesting cycle, but I love that story. That's fantastic. And then just to kind of tap back into what I really want to get into here is how old were your kids when you were going through this transition, like during COVID and this kind of metamorphosis in your business owner mindset shift from, like take what's in front of me versus like, feeling more in charge and responsible, the sense of purpose.
So the oldest one was born in 2012, so that puts her at like 9 years.
Yeah.
And so that the other one's, I should be able to do this math, 3 years younger.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're
Fu-
we're 8 and 5.
Yeah. So
They had no idea.
they had no idea, yeah. And even to this day, they probably grew up with you just being. So if that's the case, then they've only known you as a franchisor. They haven't
For
known
the
you as
most
a.
part.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then all jokes aside, what do they think you do? I mean, I think one of them is old enough to actually understand now, right?
Yeah, I think they both do. I've put a lot of value in financial literacy. Um,
Good.
I, money has always been my favorite hobby.
Yeah.
My brothers, as you've gotten to know them, they've always been on my tail about, Kelsey, you need a hobby. Kelsey, you need a hobby.
Hmm.
I'm like, I have a hobby. It's just not the one, it just has dollar symbols. I love the pursuit and the education and understanding how that piece can be used as a tool.
Yeah.
And I have lots to learn still, but it's always been interesting to me.
Mm.
And so my kids have grown up with the concept of royalty. And because they did grow up after we started to adopt the responsibility, they started to understand that dynamic. And so I think they understand that we have gotten really good at a particular skill set, being window coverings. And then we are now teaching other people how to do that skill set. But I think they've also become to learn in the process that we have a new skill set.
Yeah.
which is not window coverings, it's business, it's
Hmm.
support and communication and training. And so they've, like, I bring them through this with me. Maybe I'm preachy, but I'm
Yeah.
always in their ear. They're like, Dad, I want to work at Starbucks. I'm like, well, okay, but who makes more money? The person who works there or the person who owns it?
Yeah.
And of course I get the dad, because
Yeah.
they've heard it so much for so long.
That's right. Yeah. That's really funny. I mean, I briefly talked to my kid about this, and it's probably too young. She was like 5 at the time, and because she says, she wanted to be a doctor.
Mhm.
Mind you, she also wanted to be a garbage woman, and so it was either a doctor or a garbage woman. I said why, because she's like, I want to help people. And I feel like those two people help a lot of people. I was like, it's very innocent, and very cute, right? And
Hmm.
basically, my counteraction to that was like, well, why wouldn't you like just learn how to be, an investor or an owner of a hospital system, and then employ a bunch of doctors because you can help even more people.
Right.
And it was too early. So I ever since that moment I stopped trying because she was just like, "What are you talking about? I just want to like help people." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's good. Just keep having that mindset. We'll talk about it when you're older." But it sounds like you've been talking to them about it since they were young. Like you've just been talking to them
Oh
about it the whole
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. We used to do, it turns out my youngest one has a real gift for doing math in her head.
Nice.
Like she's phenomenal without writing it down. And that started, I mean, like 2, 3 years old. We're doing 2 plus 2 and she's doing it in her head.
Nice.
And now, we've expanded it quite a bit, but she showed an aptitude for numbers. The other one has a real intellectual aptitude as well. And so we've had these different conversations. But to use your garbage person, I early on, again, they're 12 and 15 now, so this is probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We started having conversations about why do garbage people, not garbage people, people who pick up the cans for a living,
Yeah.
why do they make such good money?
Yeah.
And I made them go through a couple minutes of trying to guess different things. And then, it's because nobody wants that job,
That's right.
and why do the people who work at a ski resort get paid very little?
Yeah.
Because everyone wants that job,
That's right.
right? Or
That's
there's
right.
or there's a lot of people who want that job.
That's right.
And so the supply and demand curve, the economics behind it, how these pieces all fit together, and it's never just one thing, it's a combination of multiple. I've been layering that in partially just because they're stuck listening to me, and at least I got an audience.
That's awesome. I love it. I have to ask? I mean, do you have a inclination or desire for what they do when they grow up? Do you want them to be something specifically?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I know that the right answer is I just want to be happy.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's cliche. Yeah, I get it.
Nah, screw that. No, I want dominators. I Because I don't want them to be dominated.
Hmm.
What would break my heart and make me sad is if they go into the workforce, like if they get a job, I'm not so upset about that.
Hmm.
But if they do it as a passive sheep, if they're just part of the herd, I feel like, and that may be their own choice, but man, I'm pushing so hard on a daily basis and over the course of their life to build that sense that they are not just another one.
Hmm.
And yeah, if they just go to work and they're working at a TJ Maxx and that's okay with them, I'm gonna feel like I screwed that up somehow. Even if
Yeah.
that's what they really love, I'm still gonna feel like I screwed that up because I really want more than that for them.
Yeah, I get it. You'll love them no matter what. I get that, the cliche thing, but yeah, deep down inside I love that you're being so transparent. That's how I feel too. It's so funny. It's so funny. I just went to my parent teacher conference yesterday, and my wife and I had a big row afterwards because she's like, "I feel like you were like demeaning the role," and I'm like, "No, I wasn't. I just don't think some of the things that they're concerned about are that important." And for me, that's my opinion, and it's their fault because they literally started by asking what questions I had. So obviously, I'm gonna take that as an opportunity to ask what questions I had. It's not like I don't think that learning how to do these things is not important. I just think that there are more important things than following rules and systems. It's like, sure, can they do it? Awesome. But like, let's move on to the more important stuff, like, how are they
Hmm.
interacting with bullies? Like, how are they holding their ground? Are they like are able to be empathetic? Do they know when things are, like those are the things I'm curious about, right? Because we could teach anybody 1+1. You could teach anybody algebra and division, and you have perseverance. You can learn those skills. But right now, like the most important things I think are like that ability to navigate people, navigate situations, understand power dynamics, right? And like really be able to protect your lanes and your values and your core, but
Hmm.
also, protect it for other people that can't, right? And being able to navigate those things. And I think those are really much more valuable skills. And as long as the teacher was asking, I was going to answer. If she's asking me what I wanted to know, I told her. And my wife, said that I was embarrassing her because I made it sound like I didn't care about all the stuff they did for her academics. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not my point. I think that it's great that they're learning stuff,
But
but
it is.
yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
is to me, yeah, a little bit. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
I hold it. I have a different value set, and I think that's part of what I'm kind of pushing on, and I touch on, and I think I hear it in your answer is like, I don't want them swept through society as if a passive passenger on the river.
that's right.
Like it's so easy, and there's so much force behind this just societal expectation of who we are, what we do, what ambitions are appropriate, what are we allowed to chase after without being condescending. Like somehow being willing to chase isn't applauded, it's looked down upon because you're pointing out what other people don't want to do, or they assume that you're condescending. Um, and I guess if you're honest with yourself, like at some point, I do look at people who work a regular job, and I just wonder how can you be happy with that? And they might be,
Yeah,
but my mind can't figure it out for
mm,
whatever reason.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
and I just don't want my kids to adopt that easy path.
What does your wife think about this? Have you talked to her about it?
Yeah, well, aside from college, so my wife and I've been married. February actually will be 20 years.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Thanks.
That's a
Yeah,
big
we're
one.
almost there.
Yeah, it's a big
Um,
one.
yeah, she's like 20 years of trying to get you in, and then I'll spend 20 years of trying to get you out. um, she and I have grown up in business together. As long as I've been working on Bloomin', she and I have been together.
Hmm.
In fact, she and I got together just prior to me working on the family business. But she's she and I have grown up together, and so she and I, like, she's an entrepreneur's wife now. She
Hmm.
gets it,
Yeah.
and she has the fortitude to deal with me and all the variants that I bring. Um, she's a graduate. She's an A&M graduate. She went through 4 years. She put herself through school, and she values that traditional university education.
Hmm.
But part of her argument is that it's a nice place to grow up. It's a soft entry into the adult world.
Yeah. I can see that.
I can see that. I don't know that I need to pay $250,000 for that, though.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a nice option, but it is not the only way it has to go. And
That's
again,
right.
I'm pushing hard. Again, if my daughters go to college, I don't have a problem as well as it's a well vetted, broad spectrum decision.
Hmm.
If you're just going to go to college because everyone else goes to college and everyone told you to go to college, I naturally think that's a terrible reason to go to college.
Yeah.
But if you've looked at multiple pathways and then decide that college is the right fit, I'm all for it because then it's an educated decision and you're not just doing it because you're one of the sheep.
Mm.
So I've got these little nuances to my bias and my opinions, but and a lot of it kind of has these conditions like if it's well thought out, if it's your choice, I'm good with it. But if you're just going to do it because the society said so, come on, you're stronger than that.
Yeah. I love this conversation. This is amazing. I also want to tap into one more thing before I start asking some of my rapid fire questions here. But um, you work a lot. I already know it. And you travel a lot. I'm curious as to like what you think about time and quality and quantity with family versus work and balancing those things.
Mm, um, well, over the last 3 years, I've been doing a lot of travel in an effort to grow Bloomin' Blinds from a franchise, like new franchise perspective. There's a lot of travel out there, especially when it comes to a lead generation side. So I've traveled more in the last 3 years than I had the 20 years previous
Oh, got it.
combined.
Cool. Okay, I didn't know that. That's
It
interesting.
hasn't been like this. And this particular year, because I'm doing franchise development trips, but then I'm also doing franchising industry trips,
Hmm.
like it's just gotten compounded. And I love traveling. I love something new. I love a break from my rut. But it's gotten to the point now where I travel enough and I'm like, oh, this is too much.
Yeah.
Um, and I say that only realizing recently how many different days a week you're in a different city.
Yeah.
I'm like, I found someone who's traveling more than I am. Like, that's a lot. And so I know you can relate to this question.
Hmm.
Um, Again, in the spirit of full transparency, it's a dichotomy because I do want to be there. I have a real value in showing up for my kids
Yeah.
and for my wife. Um, my parents being entrepreneurs were at work instead of events. Also being a bit of an independent person, I saw that it was kind of a burden for them to come to stuff. And I don't like being a burden on people. So I stopped telling them about them or asking them or inquiring why they didn't go. I
Hmm.
actually started kind of making excuses and proactively giving them the easy way out,
Hmm.
but they weren't there. So either way, I still felt that they weren't there. So now I am there. I go to
Yeah.
everything I can. There's never a time where the kids have a volleyball game and I'm just going to stay home because I don't feel like going. That'll
Yeah.
never happen, ever.
Right.
Uh, at the same time, I love what I do and I get fulfilled by it and I get energized by it. And I do struggle with a little bit of like some daddy guilt because I miss them, but it's not a driver. Like I meet people, I talk to people and have conversations like family first. And my family's really important to me. So is my work, and so is that chase, that internal feed that I need as an individual and
Yeah.
as a guy, as a man. And I have a hard time. I'm very bad at balancing these things because I will chase my dreams, my desires, and my ambitions. There are days where I would chase that faster than my family.
Hmm.
And I've gotten a lot better about it. I used to totally sacrifice my family, like almost as a default.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a I, I feel like I'm supposed to say it's a struggle. It is a struggle because I feel like everyone says you have to put family first.
Hmm.
I love my family, but I really love what I do too.
Yeah.
And I I guess I'm not all that apologetic about it. Like I share. They have to share me and my work has to share them. And feel like I know it's definitely not the most popular answer, but I feel like if I'm going to be really honest about it with
Yeah.
anybody, and anyone who really knows me already knows this, this is
Yeah.
no surprise, is I love the chase as much as I love my family.
Yeah.
And sometimes one or the other has to give.
It's definitely not the common answer, and I definitely know you'll probably get some comments on social media for saying that.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you right now that I had an experience with now a really good friend. His name is Jamie, and it was a couple of years ago, and I was in a kind of like a I don't even know what you would call it, but now it's like basically just like a check-in call, like an accountability call or a mastermind group or whatever, right? But
Yep.
he literally just said like I don't really have like that many friends outside of this, like because all my friends are like this, and I'm like, because I was saying something about like different groups, right? And I was like, how do you figure like you're so social? And he's like, most people just don't like talking about making money all the time, and I'm like, yeah, I what? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, he's like, I love making money, and I love talking about making money, and I only want to do is talk about making money, and if you don't like it, that's all right. Let's just not be friends. I don't want to fake it. And and I'm like, you could say that out loud. That was my response to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't really care what you think. So if you don't like that, then I guess this is the end of our relationship. And I'm like, oh, geez, that's awesome that you could say that out loud. I never even thought in my brain that you could just be you. And then something very interesting happened to me with Lily, actually, when she turned 5, where I realized that no matter what I did or what I said wasn't as powerful as what I did, right? And she didn't see the fact that she wasn't seeing me working hard to be happy and fulfilling myself was also permeating into her view of the world. And so for whatever it's worth, I actually completely understand what you're talking about, and I'm also walking this not line. It's like a trifold. It's like a triangle. Like you're constantly walking this weird trapeze that's like this multifaceted thing because I don't want to sacrifice my happiness because I want my kids to see what it looks like to strive for your dreams and make,
Yeah,
whether it's controversial or not, I want them to see what it looks like to fight for what you believe in and what you want. But I also want them to know I'm there for them and I love them, you
that's
know?
it. That's
Yeah,
the balance, or the 4D origami that we have to deal with.
that's right. That's right. So hopefully I encapsulated what you're trying to say and you understand that I understand.
100%.
Okay,
But
cool.
but again, all of this goes back into non-traditional approaches to the world, uh, non-sheep, non-passive. Like these answers are not the textbook's answers.
That's right.
And there's a strength, there's a commitment, there's a self-awareness that is required to be able to talk about it like that. And those are the things that I want to teach my kids at its core. And if I were to fake it, they would see right through it. At
That's
least
right.
today they would, because they now they know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And the more that I realize that I'm showing them how they could be if they wanted to, the more it empowers me to be more like this.
Hmm.
Because I know that I'm confident that I'm showing them a different side of the life, a side in which I hope that they can find value in.
That's,
And so it pushes me into it even deeper.
that's awesome. That's really cool. And then can you, if you can double click into your partnership with your wife, because you mentioned that she's now an entrepreneur's wife, and does she
Mhm.
also understand this 4D origami? Does she understand this or
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
gets it?
It's been a long time since she's flipped me any crap for what I need to do.
Mm.
She does have, like, her favorite vacation hobby is taking a picture of me on the phone at every place. Like every trip we go on, she's got a picture of me on the phone, and she doesn't even show them to me half the time. And like, she'll be a flip. Oh, there you are again. And I'm like, but she doesn't flip me shit for when I do it. She
Yeah.
just loves, like, having this moment of mockery.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the the days where, like, early in when you're in business, like, there's a level of hustle on the early days that you hope that you grow your business, that you don't have to hustle with that
Rigor.
em- rigor or just total immersion. Just,
Mm-hmm.
everything depends on this and everything has to be done. And I've gotten past that point. Fortunately, I'm no longer in to an obsessive level. And and so now I can give her more time. I can be more present. She's she'll tell you just as fast as I will, I'm never 100% present,
Mm-hmm.
ever. I don't know how to give that to anybody. I can't even give it to business because I get, something else on my mind, or my ambitions. Whatever I'm doing right now isn't what I was thinking about and dreaming about 6 seconds ago. I wish
Yeah.
I was doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but we have learned that the best way for me to be with her in the moment is, if I have something I have to do, just go do it. If we're on vacation, take 2 or 3 hours, go ahead and go do it. I won't give you any trouble. And that way you can scratch that itch enough that you can come over here and not freak out and not get grumpy and not turn into a jerk because you are just so preoccupied.
Yeah.
And uh, it's kind of learned that I don't do half in and half out very well. I'm either over there mentally, or I'm over here as much as possible. And
Yeah.
so all of these things we've gone through, fortunately, neither one of us are big fighters. We're not name callers. Through the effort and the tumultuous nature of being, a business owning couple, we've learned how to communicate our way through it and not build scars as we've had to work our way. And I love her for that. And it's such a gift to have someone who understands you and then encourages you to be who you are.
It's beautiful.
It's great. I love
Yeah.
it.
It's awesome. Kelsey, I like to ask everybody the same questions at the end, just so there's some symmetry to all my shows. So I'm going to jump into that just to make sure that I'm keeping you on time. Um, so first rapid fire question, and you don't have to answer rapidly, but the first question is, If you could tell yourself one thing before having kids, what would you tell yourself?
Do it.
Do it. Just have kids.
Do it. I was, when Jenny and I met, I was adamant I didn't want children.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was 20, when we met, I was 28. I I was not mentally ready to let go of those selfish decisions. I
Mm-hmm.
was certain that I was not going to have kids. And at some point she said, "Look, I think we'd been dating for about 2 years. We were probably a couple months from getting married." And she said, "Look, I've heard you say this and I thought I could go with it, but ultimately, like, I really want a family. And so I need to know if that's an open door that we can explore, or if you really, really are 100% dead set."
Mm.
And I'm like, this girl's pretty hot. She's pretty rad.
28 years old. That's really the
That's
pecking order of
exactly
things.
what,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And it's like, and if I give her the right answer, just maybe,
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and literally on that car ride, I was like, okay, I can do it. And I don't know if it was really that simplistic of a decision. I feel like it might have been, but I love being a dad. I
Mm.
love feeding and breathing and creating. Like, I was praying for little girls because I wanted to build warrior women because the world is not nice to girls.
Mhm.
And so I wanted girls that were going to kick the world's butt. And I think I'm on my way to that, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome.
Um, do it. I should. I'm glad we went down the path we did. We had 5 years married before we had kids. It was great.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but if there was ever a chance where I didn't do it, that's the message I would have given myself.
I love it. Yeah, it's a good message. It's a very good message to yourself. Next question. So, if you had to give one piece of advice for other parents or soon to be parents, what would you tell them?
Ooh, a couple of them that are popping in my head. I'm like, is that the one I want? Um,
You could do a couple. Now I'm curious. You got me. You
well,
got me
yeah,
thinking.
it was kind of the concept of like, be patient, it gets better. Um,
Mm. Oh, yeah.
I know that
That's a good one.
when because I'm working all the time, right? Jenny's got these two wild children, and it turns out the youngest one can run faster than she can. Yeah, figured that out in a Target. Um, so, like, she used to find, like, as the kids got older, she would find these moms, and she could see it that they're young and they're struggling, and it's like she would purposely go over and say, like, it's gonna get better, because
Mm.
she wished that someone would give her that encouragement, even if it was a stranger, in the moment where they're young and they're hard and they're going different directions, and you're all by yourself because your husband's chasing his dreams. Like, if somebody just said, just be patient, it gets a lot better.
Hmm.
I think that'd be cool. Um, I'll roll with that one. I don't want to chew up all of our fun time.
It's a really good one. I love it, and it's absolutely accurate. And I couldn't agree more. So, next question here: do you have a favorite business book or life book, that you recommend or that you like to read periodically?
Yeah, so two of them that I've really enjoyed. The There's The Millionaire Next Door.
Oh yeah, that's a
Very,
classic.
yeah,
Yeah.
very well. If I have my titles in my story correctly, but Millionaire Next Door, if I remember correctly, was like a very data driven book.
Hmm.
It had a lot of information. One thing I found really interesting in that was how problematic it is for children whose parents give them substantial money to buy a house,
Hmm.
because they end up buying in a neighborhood that they couldn't naturally self-sustain. They
Hmm.
couldn't keep up with those Joneses, but because the parents helped give them enough money to step up in a neighborhood or step up in a bigger house, now they had greater power bills. They had to keep up the place. There was more furniture. They had, like, the assumptions in that neighborhood were higher, but it wasn't at their everyday, the longevity of their money.
Hmm.
And so it was actually quite, not destructive, but problematic,
Detrimental. Yep. It's
detrimental, right?
yep.
Because you stepped them out of their income level only for a moment, and then they had to live in that space.
That's right.
So all those little insights I found so incredibly interesting.
That's funny that
Um,
that's the insight you took out of that book. That's really fascinating. Says a lot about you.
well,
And
because I,
yeah,
yeah, I'm down. Well, and it was part of that enablement. Like
yeah,
I'm very scared of enabling my girls too
yeah,
much. I clearly am not too scared of it because I'm doing a terrible job of preventing it.
yeah.
Like I'm, just like anyone who's found success, like you just think you need to give it to your kids.
That's right.
Um, and there's another one. It's got the word millionaire in it too, but it's the guy that founded limos.com and DeMarco or something like that. I can't remember his last name.
No.
It was a total affirmation of everything I believe in. It was a
Hmm.
book that was just like he was his it was an audiobook. He read his own book. He's got a great personality and and everything he said, it might have been slightly different words, but it was like a total affirmation of my belief system.
Was it the Millionaire Fastlane by
Yes,
MJ
that's it.
DeMarco?
MJ DeMarco.
Okay,
And
I've never heard of it. I gotta check it
the,
out.
yep. That audiobook is fantastic because he reads it. And then if anyone hasn't listened to it, Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. Fantastic listen as an audiobook because he also reads it. And you'll come out with a way different opinion of McConaughey than you started
That's
in a good
awesome.
way.
Yeah, I gotta do
Yeah.
that. I've heard a lot of good things about that book, but I've never heard the second book, the Fastlane. So I gotta check that out.
I love that book.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And then just to bring us home, when you're not trying to be super dad and super husband, and while simultaneously building the next biggest franchise brand, what does Kelsey do for fun? What's your downtime activities?
Um, okay. So again, well, I'll answer this in the most ridiculous answer possible, and then I'll tell you where I can relax.
Okay.
Okay. Because in my fun, I start other businesses. Seriously.
I love it. It's a great
Like
answer.
yeah, I got a little bored. I started an Amazon store. Uh, it started doing a couple 100,000 a year, and now I've realized that's a bit of a distraction, so I'm actually unwinding it now.
Yeah. Nice.
Um, yeah. In total free time, mind numbing, I play SimCity. It's
Oh,
actually called
nice.
yeah, it's the newest version. It's called Cities, Landscapes, or Skyscapes. They're like SimCity, like the modern version. It's awesome. It's cities, it's plumbing, it's subways, it's
Infrastructure,
smog.
economies,
Yeah,
people, satisfaction, like all the very multitude of
yeah.
variables.
It's
Yeah.
it's a lot of variables. But I'm building cities. I'm building stuff for fun. The only two places that I've ever found that I can sit still are on a body of water or in front of a campfire. I can
Okay.
sit and stare at a campfire for hours. I can sit on water and just stop. My wife says it's because I'm slightly autistic, and that probably adds to like there's a connection between those elements.
Hmm.
I've never been diagnosed, but I can't argue too much. I'm probably a little high functioning of something.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, so what do I do for fun? I build shit, and then where do I relax? In front of those two environments, and that's it. That's the only place you will ever see me sit still. I would rather do the dishes than sit still.
I love it. That's really cool, man. I really love those answers. Those are really great answers and good to know. Good to know. Very good. Kelsey, thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, but I also appreciate how transparent and vulnerable you were on the show, and you came guns a blazing. So I really appreciate you coming heart first. Thank you so much.
It was great to be invited. I've loved getting to know you as a friend, man. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm excited to continue our friendship as well. It's going to be good.
Likewise.
All
Yep.
right, brother. We'll talk soon.
Okay.